Hello everybody. Welcome to the Wheeler-Stokely Mansion here. I'll pass around some pictures as I'm talking, and if you have any questions, just let me know. This building was finished being built in 1911, and there have been three big prominent owners of the building. Mr. Frank Wheeler was the guy who actually basically designed the building with the help of the architects, of course. But he has this three-story building as well as the dog walk, the Japanese tea house over there. That two-story building just down there was the gardener's house. And there were also a couple of other structures here. There's a little gazebo-like building over there, which was actually where they stopped the gondola. Yes, he did have a gondola here. There was a lake. I'll pass around some good pictures. So the parking lot back in the early 1900s would have been a lake. And Mr. Wheeler loved his animals so much that he decided to build a dog walk so that he could walk his dogs even in the rain. And over by the Japanese tea garden, there was said to have been a pet cemetery. I wasn't able to find it the other day, so it might be overgrown, but it said that Mr. Wheeler was a very loving man. He had one son named Douglas, and he really loved children. People said that the children would come around to his house with baskets to fill with the fruits and vegetables from his orchards and gardens here. So Mr. Wheeler was a very wealthy man, but he also believed in sharing his wealth. And if you guys have any questions about the pictures here, there was a 4-story water tower actually on the other side of this dog walk here. It supplied the building with its water, and I think it was also servants' quarters as well. The second owner of the building was Monty Williams, who owned the building from 1927 to 1937. And I guess I should tell you a little more about Wheeler. He actually committed suicide in the building, unfortunately. In 1921, he had been very depressed about the state of his diabetes. He had had diabetes for about 18 years, and he had a close friend who had committed suicide about 3 months previously as well. So he had just been very sad and depressed. His wife was home as well as a couple of servants they had in the home. But anyways, they had the house until about 1927, until they sold it to G. Monty Williams, who was the then CEO of Marmon Motor Company. And he had the building for about 10 years, and he removed the big lagoon and he filled it in and put a key-shaped pool instead. He also no, he didn't remove the water tower. That was Marion that removed the water tower. So Mr. Stokely took hold of the building from 1937 to the 1960s when he sold it to Marion. And here's a photo of the water tower connected to the 7-car garage that Mr. Wheeler had installed as well. Very extensive, I guess. It was said that even as a young boy, Mr. Wheeler had wanted to someday live in a house based off of his own ideals, and he did just that. He worked with the architects and designed a home based on what he really liked. He wanted to create it in a way that was luxurious but not ostentatious. I don't know if it's not ostentatious or not, but yeah, it's definitely a very beautiful building. There's the gondola there, and that's the gazebo I was talking about that's actually still standing over there. And I also want to point out the Mercer tiles here. They're used throughout the house near the fireplaces and in the bathrooms. They're geometric colored tiles inlaid in cement. And they're also in the Japanese tea house too. There's some really cool fireflies and bugs along the sides. So check it out if you get a chance. They're also in that little gazebo there. But those are kind of a statement throughout the buildings due to the arts and crafts movement, which happened in the early 1900s. A lot of people thought that the country was becoming too industrialized, what with all the auto industries coming about and everything. So they wanted to kind of bring it back to, a real craftsmanship type art, where art was appreciated again. So these were hand-cut tiles here, a lot of them used in geometric shapes and in bright colors. Symbolizing nature motifs and things like that. So, does anybody have any questions at this point?
So but he did have a son who lived into a adulthood and
Yes.
carried on the name?
Yes, I don't know much about, his further life. He was married. Douglas was married, and Mr. Wheeler, it even said in his obituary that he would be kind of deceitful and trying to keep his son around longer, like because he really enjoyed the company of his wife and his son, so he wanted to keep him in the house longer. But there's. I'm sorry.
What was his business?
Mr. Wheeler, he was one of the 4 founding members of the Indianapolis Speedway. So I guess I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
They said it at the beginning. But he must have done something before to come up with a few bucks to get into the Speedway.
Yeah, he was actually from Iowa. He was a door-to-door salesman. That kind of fell through after a while, but he made good friends with Mr. Shabler, the guy who invented the carburetor. So they became business partners, and Mr. Wheeler actually funded the money for the manufacturing building so they could really start their business. So they worked together for quite a while, and that was one of his first fortunes. Mr. Wheeler, he says he made 3 fortunes without any other assistance. So it was that, the Wheeler-Shabler Company of the carburetor, the Indianapolis Speedway Company, and then there was also now I'm blanking on that one. There's another one that he also started too. I guess I didn't mention much about Mr. Stokely either. He started a canning company with his 4 brothers. He came from down south, and one of his brothers, George, came here first to kind of check out the business and see how it would go. And then Mr. Stokely came here in 1930 to really get the business started. And they started off with pork and beans, and they eventually brought in vegetables, and they canned them and froze them. And they actually brought in Gatorade too. Gatorade was created in Indiana and sold first by the Stokeleys. So, does anybody have any questions? Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.